Hey, what's your self talk? I got a special podcast this week for What's Your Self Talk. I am going to shift it over to a interview that I had, and I really want this to hone in as this is the new month, but even more so remind ourselves as we are moving forward life, as we always have to do, what we need to be reminded of, and the things that I think not only as a black culture, but as anyone who's white want to understand, how do we move forward? What are the things we need to keep our minds on? Think about it as a goal. One of the things that I have practiced very, very hard over the last years is to review my goals, have my goals with me on a daily basis. Look at it in the morning, look at it during the day, and look at it at night. And what I have found out is that the more that I put my goals in front of me and that I'm aware of what I want to accomplish, then I have accomplished those goals so much easier. And so my hope and goal is to bring this forward as not only when we're into a new month, but we start shifting ourselves. What are those things that we said we needed to do? What will I hear from this interview that I will take action on? Because this is something that I was encouraged or inspired to take action on when I first heard it, but I didn't do it. So I hope you enjoy this interview. It's with two very, very great friends of mine. I was a guest on his podcast, Robbie, and I had a great friend, Darius, who was on my podcast as well. So check it out, and we'll pick back up next week with What's Your Self Talk. All right, enjoy.
Welcome folks in. Let's start with a introduction from Jabari and Darius. So Jabari, to a listening audience who's listening in to our little family conversation in here, take us quick jog down memory lane of how in the world we met. Old white guy, young stud, college athlete. How the heck did y'all get connected?
So moving from Texas, coming into Jonesboro, Arkansas, I'm just going to let you know, nowhere in my football agenda that I have Jonesboro, Arkansas, saying that, oh, yeah, that's where I wanted to go and I go play football. So I'm going into a smaller city, born and raised in Houston / Austin, Texas, moved a lot for parents being divorced. And so came into Jonesboro, Arkansas playing football. Came in as a junior college transfer, so I was, sophomore, and just pretty much playing football and started getting plugged into some of the guys that was on the team. One of the guys who was part of FCA connected with another player that was on the team, and come to find out that this one player was actually staying with Robbie at the time. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So then that ended up bringing me to just starting to not only want to be introduced to Robbie, but just his family and just kind of the leadership of who he was at that time. And being in a married household, having kids, it was super, super attractive being in someone who grew up in a divorced household and really see, the father / wife as kids bringing up in one household. And it was
what
much
year? Help me remember. What year is this about?
That was in 2008, because I remember. Wow. I came in January. Yeah, January 2008. I never forget, because I literally drove from, I think it was Austin, Texas, and I drove by myself. I had a Chevy Impala, and I never forget driving into Arkansas. And my speedometer on my car stopped working, so I did not know how fast I was going.
With your Texas plates.
Yeah. And boy, you talk about grace. I got pulled over. I was like, listen, I don't know how fast I was going. I'm not going to even lie to you.
So you did get pulled over?
I did get pulled over.
Man.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did get pulled over. But, I would say it was probably favor Gracie because I told him I was playing football at Arkansas State. Well, he said, I'm going to let you go with a warning, welcome to Arkansas. So that's so that was awesome. But, yeah, so that back in 2008, and, it was it was a long trip by yourself.
Yeah.
That was my first long trip. But, yeah, coming into Jonesboro, meeting Robbie, and I think pretty much we just took off from there.
Yeah.
And
oddly enough, probably the main turning point is when you got knocked cold out.
Yeah. So
on that football.
So playing football, it's obviously a dangerous sport at times. You're not aware, but yeah, I got knocked off on kickoff return and knocked out unconscious. So me and Robert was already building a relationship at that time. So he knew me and coming to the game knowing, hey, I know that guy. We've had many of conversations outside of the field and, family being all the way in Texas and getting the call, realizing, hey, Jabari just had a concussion. He's doing okay. However, he's in hospital. So that did get a chance to even dive in a little bit more. You get a little vulnerable when you realize kind of your identity is wrapped around football. And for me, that was my meal ticket, to take care of my family. And when you really, as a young child, as a young man, just really doing as best as you can to put yourself in a position, that's a vulnerable moment because you're like, dang, man, I wasn't supposed to get hurt. This was not part of the plan. You know? So that gave me a lot more to even discuss, having, Robert at the time, family all the way in Texas. I can have conversation with him on the phone, but, just the ability to up and drive and get to financially, that's no way possible to be able to do that.
Because we had to convince Auntie and Mama, don't hop on a plane just yet. I'm here. We're going to be okay.
And I would have known if they even tried to make that trip, that would have been a huge strain, trying to figure it out. Although they would have, but it's just, it wasn't really necessary. But the reality is I know by deep down, that's not going to be you can't do that. Y'all, my aunt, I'm pretty sure she was still working at the time. And so that just was not even possible.
All right. So that's Jabari, 2008. That's 12 years. Goodness, I'm old. So then comes just when you thought life was fun enough. Then comes Darius Dunaway.
Yes, sir.
So Darius, introduce yourself, how you came into the mix, where you came from to finish up Team Oreo. This is the second half of the cookie of Team Oreo.
That's right, baby. Like Robbie said, Darius Dunaway. I basically came in the picture a year after, in 2009, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's 11 years. I came on a visit to Arkansas State. So I'm from Monroe, Louisiana, but I came on a visit to Arkansas State, and my host initially was Alex Carrington. And my second host happened to be a guy named Jabari McLennan.
Worst day of my life.
Yeah, it's the worst day of his life. Actually, we connected, and it was just unreal how strong our connection was and how much we had in common. And basically, from that point, I knew that I was going to commit to come to Arkansas State. Committed to Arkansas State, made my way here by that summer. And it wasn't long before he introduced me to the Turn, which is an event that we attended at Fellowship Bible Church with a lot of other college guys. And Robbie, you were there as well, leading us. And that's why I got introduced to you. And from there, our relationship kind of just steamrolled. I had my first piece of strawberry shortcake at your house.
Which is an example as we talk about life in the crazy context that we're in while we're even doing this podcast. That's yet another moment for me, right? So here's white dude, always grown up white, right? Darius comes from Monroe, Louisiana. He's over at the house for dinner. We've had dinner. He's hanging out with my kids in the living room. And my wife has strawberry shortcake stuff ready. And she says, hey, go see if Darius wants some. So I go in there. Hey, Darius, you want strawberry shortcake? And Darius says, what?
What's that?
Yeah. So it's just one of 9,000 ways, which when we have done life together, it's like, whoa, we are from two different worlds. Yeah. And real life will demonstrate that and show that. And you're like, how can you not know what strawberry shortcake is? And thankfully in a relationship, we get to explore, what do you mean? What is strawberry shortcake?
Right. And I had like 5 pieces that day.
Yeah. And essentially, it literally through something as simple as that, learn like, oh, you did not have access.
All right.
Buying fresh strawberries and making, homemade whipped cream from cream. That was not an option growing up. Exactly. And that's just one of, like I said, 1,000 examples of us going, whoa. We need to back up a little bit. Why is that? Because I can live in a world where I cannot imagine another person, let alone another American, that doesn't know about strawberry shortcake,
right? Because
you haven't had access to it. So 2008, 2009, first strawberry shortcake.
Right.
So all of that to say, we've thankfully been able to do life together, from young Black men rolling up to Arkansas State to 2 married men. So we went from 2 to now there's 4. There's 2 Dunaways, Mr. and Mrs., 2 McLennans, Mr. and Mrs., and now we got 3 kids in the mix. So Dunaways, you got 2 girls, right?
Yes, 2 girls, 2 and 1. Our oldest is Ariana Elizabeth, and our youngest is Armani Rose.
There you go. And Jabari, we've already heard little Houston in the background.
Yeah. Houston Hurst McLennan, a little bit over 1 year old. So
there he is.
Yes, you hear him right in the background.
Yeah. So now we have had who knows how many conversations over since 2008, 2009. But I wanted to hop on and just take a detour on this episode to say branding and marketing is important, but like there's more stuff going on in the world that's more important. So from you guys' perspective, we've talked a lot in the last week about particularly the what's been sparked by George Floyd. And I wanted to just, without a specific agenda, let folks in on a little bit of kind of what we would call our family conversation. Give you literally an open mic to express what it feels like, your range of emotion, what we need to understand, we being the white folk in the room, need to recognize and understand, at least from y'all's perspective. So none of us are on here representing, you don't represent every Black person in the world. I don't represent every white person in the world, but the 3 of us do represent us. And there's probably some things we represent for folks beyond us. So for our audience that's listening in, if they're Enneagram folks, so we're talking 2 Enneagram 7s. Okay. Yeah. So we got a party going on right here all the time. This is cool in the gang, right? Celebrate good times at all times.
Always.
But what I would say as the non-Enneagram 7 that I could tell probably this week or week and a half more than ever, that typically Enneagram 7 doesn't want to spend a whole bunch of time in the not fun areas because we got a party to go to and get started, right? There's something more fun on the horizon. I don't want to dwell in, but I can see it and hear it in both of y'all that this has even tipped the scale for Enneagram 7 to go, I can't just go get past this one. So we haven't talked a lot about these incidents as they've happened. And unfortunately, we could have spent all of our years, about every other month, probably talking about another incident of a Black man or Black woman being anywhere from mistreated to murdered. But this one it does feel different. So what's been your experience over the last 10 days, including, we've already talked about this, like I said, but, people reaching out, you hearing from people you hadn't heard from forever. So what's that been like for each of you?
For me, it's been exactly what you said. Since this whole thing happened again, which is not anything new. I've gotten calls from people I hadn't talked to and some in years, people I hadn't seen in years. Some I don't even really know as well. But because of what I do as I work for a ministry called FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, as a chaplain. And I work based mainly on campus at ASU where I play ball, but I got a lot of predominantly white churches calling and reaching out to me and asking me, hey, what should I say / do, or how can I pray for you? You know, and which is all okay. It's just I hadn't talked to you in forever, almost, and which makes it a little difficult as well to check the authenticity of it. And not saying it's not authentic, but it's like, oh, okay, this thing blows up, and I hear from you, and you want me to give you the words to say to make things better,
right?
But the reality is, if you're only looking for an opportunity to make one statement that's going to clear everything up and go back to normal life, then you're going to do more damage than good, because what you're really doing is waiting for the next thing to be recorded and blow up before you address this hard issue, this problem again.
I think that's so helpful. If you're white, it's fantastic to reach out, but you've got to understand, if you've not reached out before, again and again, that in the heat of this particular moment, and I know, Jabari, we talked about this, the analogy you gave, I thought was super helpful.
It's frustrating for me to even think through sometimes, because when you just understand the reality, it's like it's just going back to something Darius just said, as far as the authenticity of somebody coming wanting to ask questions. I'm just like, the only reason we're on this podcast today is because of we've had this conversation, not in great depth, but we know who we can trust and even talk to. We know your intentionality. Like, I don't know who you are if you're reaching out to me. And for the most part, like, how do I know, like, you just somebody else that, oh, let me check that off the list. I did talk to somebody. And like, to be honest with you, that's like now the filter that I see through for everybody. I'm just like, at the end of the day, yes, it's the hot trend that's going on right now. And, just like any, outfit that you like, you're going to put that away and you're going to keep moving on. So I think the analogy, if I can recall,
the first time we were talking, you said, pop up on my phone out of nowhere, like a day after my mom just got raped, and you want to talk. Yeah.
So
have me address your group about. About
it's like
mom's getting raped or something.
So my mom get raped, and say that's something that I'm dealing with. I'm grieving through, right? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to process. And now all of a sudden you like, hey man, somebody I probably talked to once or twice, I never even talked to, wants to now have this conversation where I'm like, well, first of all, like, I don't know where I'm at emotionally right now to even process all that. So I don't think you want to even, I don't even want to talk to you right now, because I need to have time for myself. And it's like, for you to have the nerve to say, well, you shouldn't respond or do that. Or I'm like, well, that just, I literally have to just walk away. Because whoever you are, and I'm talking to specifically anybody that's white, if you think about, like, I have to now humble myself to help educate or help you understand more of my frustration. And I've told people so many times, like, I'm only going to do so many podcasts. I'm only going to talk so much about it. And because here's the reality of it. It starts with empathy. If you understand what that means, if you don't, then you can you can educate yourself on that as well. And then it's enough I recorded my own podcast about it, so you can go and listen to that. But then too, it's enough movies, it's enough documentaries, and it's enough information for you to go figure out for yourself as far as what you need to listen to give better understanding on what you can do. And also what has not been done. Because, just for the sake of sanity, you want to be able to stay in a healthy space for your family, because that's my main responsibility. It's like, I have a responsibility to love and care and be available for my family. And so what I need to keep that and maintain that is important. And so I don't want to be your science project.
Right. Yeah. Or ignore my family. Well, I've got 5 days booked full of interviews or talking to a white friend or talking to somebody's church or like I need to lead myself.
Right.
And my family.
And none of that. And I'm a very business oriented. None of that pays me.
Right.
You're not paying me for my time.
Right.
You just want me to volunteer my time to help educate you on something that's super emotional for me. Like, think about saying, hey, I want to go to a well-known psychiatrist, $300, $400 an hour. Oh, okay. So you want me to expect me to drop myself and dig deep inside my emotions to help you understand now?
Right.
And so for me, it's just so frustrating. And like, just to your point, just me being who I am. A lot of people know me with just being a super positive, optimistic I am, which I still am. And I'm never going to change that. But now now that you finally understand the reality that I know so many other males, just male, female, have to push through and like had to ignore, had to forgive you because you didn't understand. And like for me, not even have to bring that conversation up with you.
Yeah.
But now I get to bring it up, and now I have to go tap into all those other things that I've overlooked and I, pushed past. Now I have to surface all that emotion back up. Maybe some I never even really completely processed. And I have to now work through that. It's just like, all right, well,
right.
We'll see how this works out.
Our wide audience, like be very careful if you're calling or reaching out that you're not asking Jabari to process through that, like on your show, on your time, in front of your people, on your crowd. Like he got to have the space to do that without trying to use it or worse, manipulate it. So we'll come do that in front of my group. Oh man.
And the one thing I think about is like for anybody, like I had a guy reach out to me and he was wanting to know, hey, is it okay if I post this on social media? I'm like, yeah, that sounds fine. And then he also asked like, hey, it doesn't feel like I've ever been this way with you. I'm like, to me, when like you asking that question, like you still want, you're seeking my approval. Like I'm trying, you looking for me to help you feel good. And when like you need to personally deal with if you've ever done that, like I don't know your intentions, I don't know your motives, I don't know what's going on inside of you. And so it's not my job to be able to validate or make you feel better, whether you did this or whether you didn't do this, or you doing this or you aren't doing this. Like that's not my job to figure out for you. Yeah, that's something you need to be able to convict of yourself.
Right. So we're going to come back and talk at the end of this specifically about that, because I know that's one of like the million requests you're getting. Now, all of a sudden you've got to be your white friends, like social media police. Hey, can I get your approval on posting this or saying this, which, hey, it's great if you're white that you're at least thinking through that. But again, if we flip roles, like I'm trying to process through this, and now I've got to be your social media editor. And so Jabari mentioned, there's this is now in the limelight, and like we've talked about, part of the frustration is back to that authenticity. Is it in the limelight simply because we're stuck in a pandemic? There's no sports to watch. So this gets a spotlight. Other incidents like this have popped up in the spotlight, and then the spotlight has quickly faded. Mm. So part of it is you're still watching going, is this one authentic, or is it just more in the spotlight because nothing else there's no other spotlights on right now? There's been, like Jabari, man, there's documentaries, there's things. So I see a lot of talk about, hey, go educate yourself. Absolutely go do that. But I would imagine, Darius, you could speak, part of the frustration is, yeah, but all of those have been there. Like there hasn't been a documentary that I'm aware of that's a major documentary that that Jabari or Darius, you would mention to me, go look at this, that's been created in the last week, right? Nobody's had time to make a new one. Mm. So in other words, they've been out there. So how does that feel when you know, like, you can go educate yourself, but I would imagine part of the frustration is, but those have been there.
Exactly. I'll just say one thing, Darius. I'm going to let you tackle this. Sorry. But I want you to realize, like, when I look at that movie, I'm not educating myself. I'm looking at something I already knew. As opposed to you looking at it to educate yourself.
Right.
Think through that.
Yeah. I would totally agree with that. And I would even go on to say, to your point, Robbie, that though George Floyd's death was cruel and gruesome and, you know, hard to watch, honestly, there were a whole lot more gruesome, hard to watch videos that came out well before that, where a black man was shot and killed for reaching for his wallet in front of his girlfriend and daughter in the backseat. Another man who on camera was shot 18 times, once in the head as well. Another, you know, it was several times where things even worse than sometimes I can never think, like, could it get any worse than being handcuffed and suffocated to your death? And it has been worse than that. But now this upheaving of people, like, oh my gosh, this ain't right. What's going on? It's like, what's changed? You know, it's been happening. It's been worse than it is now, and I think it does have something to do with the pandemic and nothing else to run to or turn to, and there's nothing else to push this by. So it's like another TV event that kind of just shows up and goes away.
Right. So pushes it out of the news cycle. There's nothing else at the moment.
So, and to Jabari's point, he stated it on earlier, as far as people reaching out to you, I think, and asking, hey, is this okay? It's a thin line. Sometimes I can understand that if you're asking with the intent of apologizing. If you say, hey, have I like done this before? If you're asking with the intent to make right what you may have done wrong, and say, hey, yeah, you actually have made me feel like that. And then you come back and you're apologizing for that, I can understand it. But if you're asking for that to give yourself some self-worth, yeah, I didn't think I was, check. You know, or I mean, I got a text message where I thought, oh man, it was heartfelt. I appreciate that. But it just so happened I'm riding with another black friend who I'm helping move into his new house, and he got the exact same message, worded the exact same way. No. It was a copy and pasted message. So I said, oh man, I just got a text from this friend. He said, who? And I told him who it was. And he said, oh, I got a text by him earlier. I said, oh, what did he say to you? And he began to read it. And it was word for word what my message said. And I thought, whoa, what the heck, man?
That's not a boilerplate swipe file moment. Golly.
Exactly. So I was like, bro, I mean, I literally thought, that was a heartfelt, personal thing that was being done. But in reality, it was whatever you consider it to be. And it devalued that message that was sent to me, in a big way. So this is sad, surely enough, but it gets more sad when you begin to see things like what we just discussed. People try to cover it up. People asking, hey, what do I do when you have all these resources, like different books and things like that? But I think more importantly, man, investing in a relationship with somebody of a different race who don't look like you, who didn't grow up the way you grew up, who didn't have the same privileges you had, who didn't go through the same experiences you had. I talked to one white guy who I call a friend of mine, and he told me how he grew up, family, made $250,000 a year. He would go in the backyard, play in the creek, ride dirt bikes and things like that. And I was like, bro, it was night and day different for me. I grew up not knowing most days what I was going to eat at night. Or if I did find something to eat, it was going to be a corn dog most of the time, or the cheese that didn't melt. Trying to eat a bologna sandwich when you pop in a bubble to keep it, to get the whole thing to cook. I mean, or you hoping somebody don't kick your door in one day and try to rob you, or the vehicle that you finally get when you're in high school as a family. One vehicle for a whole family to use is not sitting on cinder blocks because somebody stole your wheels off of it. I grew up with those worries over, worrying about a snake in a creek or having a dirt bike injury, totally different lifestyle. So how can you understand me if you don't build that personal relationship to get to know me and embrace my differences? And not because I'm a project to you, but because I'm family and I'm a friend to you.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful to hear is we gotta see, like, this is a person,
right?
Period. That's it. This is not a project to undertake if you're white. Please don't make this even beyond movement. It's a person. Thanks for listening to part 1 of this important episode. I'm going to put a link in the show notes to some ways that you can connect with Jabari and Darius. But in part 2 of this special, you're going to hear some solutions, some ideas that they have on how we can move forward together, how we can serve one another. And in there, you're going to learn a little bit more about what Jabari and Darius are up to, and they will point us to some ways that you can connect with them. In the meantime, I'll include those links to their social media accounts in the show notes, and please join me next time as we finish this conversation together.
Hey, What's Your Self-Talk? Jabari is here from What's Your Self-Talk podcast. And listen, I want you to download Anchor right now, because chances are you're listening to this and you're saying, I got some things I want to share. I have some things that I've wanted to put in the podcast form. Here's the opportunity. Anchor is free. You can do it from your phone, and you can be on all the different podcast stations, all in one app. Okay. So what I need you to do is stop waiting for the perfect time, analysis paralysis. Do it now. You'll thank me later. What's your self-talk?
As we wind this thing down, I wanted to just mention a couple of memories I have in light of this discussion about the fact that, so we've done life together for quite a while. And part of what we've talked about 100 times, 1,000 times, is doing life together, how it makes life far more beautiful than when we stick to our own, what's familiar to us, what we grew up with. Both Darius and Jabari, y'all have said, when you moved up here to play football at Arkansas State, for the most part, as crazy it may seem to a listening white audience, although it shouldn't, it's the first time you're really around white people.
Yeah, I went to all black elementary, all black junior high school, all black high school as well. My first real relationship interactions with people that didn't look like me or the white culture was coming to Arkansas State.
Because most of us don't think that we would say, well, if they're football players, so they grew up playing football, so at least they were on some sort of sports team. And well, in both of y'all's context, no.
No, yeah.
right?
My high school, everything was 50% black or 50% Hispanic.
Right.
It's like if you was white, you fell in one of them categories.
Right. So it's, I think, super helpful because it's not uncommon for a white audience to say, well, I don't have any black friends. I'm not in a community where there's black people around me. First of all, to realize, hey, that works both ways. So if you're sitting there going, I don't even know where I would start. Don't forget, it works both ways. Except usually, particularly if you're a black male, you get forced into that. Like that was not y'all's choice. If you wanted to keep playing football, that stuck you in that environment. So the second thing, though, I want to think through because of doing life together. There's a more countless moments that have made my life and my family's life richer. That I think it's helpful for us to at least acknowledge and point out. One of the ones that stands out to me is when my daughter was, I think it was she's 13th birthday, right? So
she got a cake that said "Happy 16th birthday."
16th, that's right. Yeah. So
no, she was 13, but the cake says.
Oh, 16. That's right. Yeah,
it was a mistake made by somebody else.
Both of y'all came over. So we had this little party. Let me describe it for our listening audience. We invited some close family friends to have this little party. The purpose of the party was to celebrate Colby and your birthday, but also to kind of acknowledge she's moving into a new stage of life, right? As a teenager, kind of into adulthood. So basically what we told these folks is, hey, we'd love to come. We're going to celebrate her birthday. And we, come prepared to kind of just give her some encouragement in some area that you've seen in her life and kind of a challenge for the next stage of life. So we had, I think, 2 other upper middle class, whatever, white families, right? Husband and wife and kids that are there. And then Darius and his wife, were you married? Yeah. So Darius and his wife, Ioana, were there. And then Jabbar and his wife, Shania, are there. And so it just so happened the way we rolled around, everybody's doing their thing. And Colby, I've seen this in you and encourage you. And for the future, blah, blah, blah. So it gets to, I don't even know if you guys remember this. Maybe you do. But when it came to both of you guys, you literally both said, unrehearsed, you said, first of all, you should be so thankful that you have a family and a mom and dad that love each other and live in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you said, I cannot think of a friend that I had growing up that had that. Okay. No white person in the room would ever that's just assumed, right? We're all upper middle class. Like we're all part of a church. Like, oh yeah, whatever. The first thing both of y'all said is like, you got to understand how crazy this is, that you have a family and a mom and dad that will like even talk to each other, let alone love each other. And like, why I wouldn't have ever even think, well, yeah, of course. Like, I'll never forget that moment. And hopefully Colby doesn't, to remember you don't get this just because of the color of your skin, you deserve it.
Right.
Another memory I have, Darius is over. It's Halloween, happens to be Halloween. He's hanging at the house.
Yes.
My middle son, who I don't know, maybe he's in 9th grade or something at the time. The youngest is out trick-or-treating with friends. My middle son goes out with one of his friends and they're just walking the neighborhood. He comes back home and Darius is like, hey, did you have fun? What was going on? And my middle son, Cade's like, yeah, there were some older kids that were kind of being punks to us. And Darius is like big brother, right? He says, let's go find these older. So they go out and Cade is about to cut across a neighbor's yard in between 2 houses over a creek to hop over, take a shortcut to the other street. And Darius says, whoa, brother. I can't be rolling. I can't do that. I can't do that. Now, my son never in his life would ever think twice about doing that. And I know when we would walk, sometimes we would walk my neighborhood when we would meet together for some accountability stuff. And as people drove by, and it's a nice neighborhood. It's not some gated community or anything. I know if I'm not with Darius, hey, we're already getting looks because Darius, you are how big?
I'm 6'6".
I am not. Darius, what color is your skin?
I'm black as all get out.
Yeah, and my skin is white, right? We would already get looks because we are not the same age. We don't look the same, right? But I know if I'm not walking with him, a whole different ballgame. What could happen? Even just in my little neighborhood, and we're not in a big, huge city, nothing. I'll not be shocked if somebody didn't call the police and say, hey, just wanted you, could you come drive by? Because there's a strange looking guy I've not seen around here. They would never do that with me walking the neighborhood.
Right. Exactly.
We got strange looks when they drove by. But if I'm not with him, I literally remember thinking, if I just go back to my house and he's doing the same thing, he's walking my neighborhood and praying.
Right.
God knows what could happen to him.
Right.
I would never know that if I'm not doing life with you ever. I know we could fill an entire 10 seasons of podcasts if all we did was talk about experiences you guys have had just in your life about how you've been treated unfairly.
Oh, yeah.
Opportunities that I don't even view them as opportunities. Right? For me, it's normal life that you guys would point out over and over again. Like, bro, that's not normal. Not where I'm from. That's not real. Not where I'm from. That's a fairy tale where I'm from. So as we wrap up from y'all's perspective, what advice could you give to a listening white audience that, at least from your perspective, has been helpful or would be helpful for you from them?
I'll start since I've been talking. I'll give Jamar the ability to wrap it up. But my advice I would give is, first, man, listen, take time. Find someone who don't look like you and invest in that personal relationship. Get to know him. Do life with him. One of my fondest memories of Robbie, which I never got a chance to share, that was when Robbie was going on spring break and I was on campus. I had nowhere to stay. And Robbie, he knew this, but I wasn't just telling him this, but he knew this because we did life together. He knew I didn't have a vehicle. He knew I was going to be on campus while campus was shut down. I never asked him for anything during this time, but one of my fondest memories was Robbie said, hey, we're going on vacation and we want you to stay in our house and just kind of eat whatever you want. You can use our vehicle if you need to, and you just kind of watch the dog. That'd be the only thing I could do, watch Cosmo, which I love Cosmo. Cosmo's my buddy, but that random act of love was like, man, like this dude, I don't owe him nothing. It's like it was him loving me. He didn't post that on Facebook that he did that for me. He didn't,
start a campaign.
Yeah, he just say, hey, is this offensive? No, he was.
Have a black male stay in your house, white family, while you go on vacation.
Yeah, it was like, hey, this is family, and this is what I'm not telling everybody go find a black person. I'm staying in your house. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, invest in a relationship with someone who doesn't look like you, so that you can begin to understand that it's totally different. Some people tell me, I don't get it. I don't get it. And I said to them, because you don't know anybody, you don't have a relationship with anybody that don't look like you. You get what you understood for the majority of your life. So that's my one big piece of advice. This is not a one-stop shop. This is not a one thing you can just address, one message you can send and it be finished. But rather, I encourage you to invest in a personal relationship with somebody and ask those questions as the relationship gets better. Ask the questions about how that person may have grown up, what some things they experienced, and you will be amazed just by that one person of the how different life is for that person, and how those life skills and those things that happen in their life make up who they are and their practices of why they do what they do. So that's my one big thing that I can think of right now. So I'll turn it over to you, Jabbar.
Yeah. So I think for me, what I think about specifically is go, build that relationship, but go support them who have a business. Because you'll be so surprised if you choose to go study this history within itself. Like a lot of, like for myself as being a black male, being able to provide and take care of my family, and to the extent that I can continue to get the exposure that I need to do that, like that builds up my self-confidence just in whole, because me knowing specifically all the things my ancestors went to try to even get to this point we're at right now, but then what they were doing to just be a positive example for their family. And when you think about like the self-image of just the Black community, it's like so many layers they have to fight through. Like prime example, I went to an Enneagram workshop. You know, majority of the people were white. That I can literally stand up and count how many Black people that was there. And I remember one of the ladies asking a question, for those who don't know Enneagram, what a 7. One of the things the 7s do is that they do something that's called reframe. So they take a situation that is happening and it's a painful situation. They try to reframe it in a way to make it look good or make it look positive. And they do that so much. And one lady stood up who was 7. She was African-American. And she's like, I think my reframer is broken. And she was just talking about just life in general. You do not understand how much we have to reframe and have to reshift and have to like, if you think about like how much just that does to you.
Yeah.
Physically.
It's like a car you've run into the ground. Like, it's broken. I can't use it anymore. It's got too many miles on it. I've reframed everything I could reframe.
Exactly. And so for those who are having a business and they are trying to reframe the fact that nobody is supporting me, nobody, I got to, pay bills. It's right. Just,
Yeah. So for the white folks listening, let me push that point harder. Darius is on staff with Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He has to raise support. That system is set up for upper middle class white people, period.
100%.
You go back to your upper middle class white church. You say, hey, I'm going to go do some ministry stuff or whatever. And they go, oh, that's such a wonderful blessing. You've always been such a good kid. And they write you a check, and at least 50 to 80% of your support comes from your one church back home. Then you probably get another 10% just from relationships back home. Darius can count on zero money coming from back home.
100%. No money.
Zero. So you got to go work for it. Jabari, like, it's not uncommon for a white I want to start a business. Okay, I'm going to call dad and get a loan, or mom and dad help out, or their friends are going to be my first customers when I open the blah, blah, blah. Like, again, I don't even see that as opportunity. That's normal life. If I start something, my parents are going to support it, but, financially, everything. All our friends, home network, they're going to have the opportunity to do that. For my family, one brother, I have an older brother, parents. Both parents, college degrees, brother, college degree. Jabari, you start a business. Are you calling mom and dad for loans?
Absolutely.
Ain't happening. Mom and dad got master's degrees, and no, they didn't have opportunity for that. So you have nothing to fall back on.
Absolutely nothing. I mean, I just right now, I never forget just thinking about it from a financial, like, when you get married, you're looking for the help of your family. Like, me and my wife did not have any help. And I remember, like, I think our budget for our wedding was like $3,000, like total. And that's something that we all either saved up from working while still in college. And so it's just like the many of financial hurdles we have to go through because lack of just having anything. And now you have somebody who is working to break that cycle. And you are in a position in some way, form, or fashion to be able to support that. Man, I think that's the biggest thing you can do, because it's more behind the scenes that you would never understand. Right. However, it will give them the confidence to keep moving forward. And so, and I'll even share this just because one of the biggest moments that I've had in my life is just shift my trajectory, and it was around just my career. I shared it with Robbie, and he knows how sensitive I was and how this moment was. And I was grateful to be able to experience life with Robbie, because it just shows the connection we have. I grew up playing football. I thought life for myself was going to be football. Like, and a part of that come up because that's for honestly, as a black male, that you either make it in sports.
That's your ticket. Yeah.
Yeah. You make it in sports and you make it in entertainment.
Yeah.
And
You're
so
not going to go back work for your dad's big Fortune 500 company, right?
Right. Exactly. I got nothing. And so if I just think about, I remember as a sophomore in high school, I told my mom, you don't ever have to worry about you paying for me to go to school. I'm going to get a D1 scholarship and put myself through school. And I had to say that because I seen financially, like, y'all can't put me through school.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt you even get a loan to put me through
Right.
school. Like, to live that reality and consume 100% of my energy and effort in school to make sure not only I'm passing, make sure like I'm a good athlete that people are going to want to recruit to get me to a D1 college and then be good enough at D1 that I can make it to the NFL. And that moment, it came from many conversations, hard conversations. I was standing right there in the room with Robbie, and I realized this not going to work out. I have to turn away from football and I have to go a different direction. And the reality is one thing he said, you know, being a very, I'm a Christian and I'm not afraid to say that. He was like, hey, God cannot love you no more, no less than he does right now. And not only that was important, but I had to understand, like, now I have to shift my perspective and saying, how can I now provide for my family? And it was business related, but I had no confidence in moving forward in that. Like, I had no experience. I didn't know what that meant. And for somebody, for him to share that with me, but also give me some guidance in that, like, that is more than money, anything can ever replace, because generally you have those conversations with your dad, right?
Yeah, right.
Or blood, family member, and that just goes to show the level of respect. But even more I have for Robbie, but just the layers that you have to process outside of your family. For us,
because when you face that dilemma, okay, I'm going to have to find another way. The way I've counted on my entire life, it's not going to happen. I have to find you. Again, you don't have a contact list of family and friends, of black family and friends, and in many cases, black males out in front of you that you could have at that moment turned to and say, okay, I'm going to have to do something else. Help me start a business. How did you start your business? You had a few of those, but like I could have, dude, I could have called 100 guys to have that conversation. 100 white guys, right? Hey, I'm going to have to, start. How does that work? What do I need to do? Can you help? Will you, whatever, mentor me? Wouldn't think a thing about it. Jabari stared at us like staring into a black hole of, here we go. I'm diving in. We're going to have to figure this out because I don't have any place else to turn. So if you're white, and when you hear Jabari say that, it's not, hey, go support a black business because that's a nice thing to do, or you got to spend your money anywhere and they kind of help them out. No. You are helping give opportunity where there has been absolutely no opportunity.
Correct. And that opportunity creates more opportunities. For example, Jabari, man, because he has that, he's gotten an opportunity. I've watched him numerous times meet with different minorities, people that look like me, and give them hope that they can create something for their family. So when hope felt like it's been taken away. So
part of what Jabari and Shanita do, they have rental properties. That's part of what they do. So they got way more real estate than I will ever have, and nor could I manage. And Darius got in the game, right? Yes. How does Darius get in the game? Because he could now turn to Jabari.
Exactly.
And say, hey, how do I get in the game? And Jabari's like, oh, it's a fun game. Here, let me show you how you get in the game. So that's what you're providing. That's what you're helping do, is kind of unlock what, again, for many of us in a white audience, the door has always been unlocked. I got to walk through that door anytime. In fact, it's been open, not only unlocked, it's wide open. But you're helping to unlock something that has not been accessible. So get in a relationship, because over time, relationship, they're built on trust, right? And if you want to know what to do, what to understand or whatever, start doing life with another human whose skin color is different than you. And that's where you're going to find out. how you can help in your, because it's not just help at some sort of national level that I can't get my hands around. I know I can go and need to go help Darius and Jabari, real people. Okay. If they want to go march tomorrow, then because that helps, then now I know that's where I need to be. If they want me to help some other way, like stay at my house or whatever, now I know. So get in a relationship. That's where communication happens. And we're not getting anywhere without communication.
And what I would tell you is this, and we're doing this on a Zoom call, and I can look at Darius and myself as we are having these conversations. Like, it's very uncomfortable for us to be able to talk about a lot of this stuff. But then also, I know even for myself, fighting back tears. As you're doing that and you start to feel uncomfortable, welcome to our experience.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're white and you go, man, but this all sounds like it's going to, because I'm going to have to, like Darius and I've talked, he's from Louisiana. My grandfather's from Louisiana. I haven't done any major genealogy stuff. Darius hadn't done any. Mm-hmm. But we have both looked at it's very possible that my great granddad could have owned his great granddad. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to learn how to do life together in a way that unwrites what has been written.
That's right.
So yeah, it's uncomfortable. Like, just like Jabari said, welcome to the party that they've been shoved in since the day they're born. And what makes it doesn't make it go away, but less uncomfortable is relationship over time. Because now we can have those conversations. They're still uncomfortable, but they're in a family-like atmosphere of love, which is a game changer. All right, fellas, thank you so much for joining on. Any last tips, words of wisdom, comments you want to say before we're going to give a couple of shout outs where you can go find, support, follow. But before we do that, any last words of wisdom?
It's okay to get like everybody's already said. It's okay to get uncomfortable and get your hands in this stuff, in this mess. And if you're not real about it, it's going to show itself. So do yourself a favor. If you're not ready, don't do it. But I encourage you to get ready because it's not going to just change overnight. Mm-hmm. It's not going to just happen. You have to be intentional. I got to be intentional on how I speak when I'm interviewing for a job, on how I look, making sure I don't look what status quo consider a thug, so I can be considered for positions. Even if I got the same degree as someone else, I have to work twice as hard. So it may make you work twice as hard in order to invest, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think listen to this more than once.
Yeah,
because I think just like sports, you can play a game, but then you have to go back and look at film. And when you go back and look at film, you start seeing things that you didn't notice. What's going to happen for you? You're going to start hearing things you did not notice. For instance, we just looked at The Last Dance by Michael Jordan and the Bulls team. There was so many different angles that you now learn. How many different angles and how much will you get back from just going and listening to this again? And I say that because if you really care, you study. And anything in business, in life, in your marriage, spiritual, like you study it because you want to have a way where it's going to truly affect you and it will show.
Well, thank you guys for hopping on. I know it's not easy and you're taking time away from your families. So thank you to your families, to your wives and kiddos. Let's say, so we're Team Oreo. Right. and the cream filling in the middle. So you want to find out more about Team Oreo. So Darius Dunaway is now turned into Chef Dunaway. And I'm talking about in a short time. My kid, we were literally just talking this week about the time Darius brought spaghetti over. And, oh my God, that was terrible. now homeboy's like Asian steaks. Okay. So Darius, where can they find out a little bit more about you on the social and the YouTube for sure?
Okay. Social media wise, you can find me on Instagram at Chef D Way, or even on YouTube. Actually, on Instagram, it's going to be chef_D Way. And on YouTube, it'll be chef D-Way. And you'll see all my cooking channels there. Also, if you're feeling generous, you can support my ministry,
there you
FCA,
go.
as well.
Come on now.
During the pandemic, it's been a little slow, so I am raising support still with my ministry to stay full time. Mm-hmm. So you can also support there through FCA Northeast Arkansas if you want to do that too. Mm-hmm. So those are my 2 plugs.
Good. We'll put the link in the show notes. Yes. And so on the FCA front, I will speak up and speak in. If you're listening, we talked about what that enables Darius to do is he is on the campus of Arkansas State University working with, good Lord, how many Black athletes that are in the exact same situation that both of you guys were in when you rolled up into Arkansas State. So you want to talk about putting Darius on the front line. So if you care, that is one fantastic way to make a difference, way more than you'll ever know. Because again, we could fill up another hour of Darius literally just saying the names of all the dudes he's doing life with and how every one of them is in that same situation. Right?
Yes, sir.
So that's why you would donate. The other thing, when you've watched Chef D-Way cook, remember, this is the dude that literally did not know what strawberry shortcake is. And I would bet everything you see him cook, he never had access to growing up.
100%.
So that's where you can find D-Way. I'd love for you to hop on his support team because, again, he can't just call back home and say, I'm gonna take another trip back to my home church and make up the difference that I've lost because of the pandemic. All right, Jabari, where can they find you?
You can find me. My podcast is What's Your Self Talk. And you can find that on all your different podcasts.
We're talking episode 1?
What was the question?
Episode 1? What's the one you recorded last week?
Episode 7, Why Black Lives Matter.
Okay. Okay. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. So yeah, What's Your Self Talk podcast. Where else?
And so definitely on Instagram and Facebook where I post content regularly. And I would just encourage me. I'm a very motivational speaker and transitioning over now to continue to help specifically Black families who want to build a legacy. Similar to what I'm doing as far as in real estate. I've helped with Darius, and to be honest with you, as I continue to walk through how to build that online course and doing that for the simple sake of what we're doing, not only guidance in that, but even support once that's out and running. So that's something that's coming. Putting it out there like that is even more challenges to make sure that I get it done. So anyway, to help out in that, whether it's resource or knowledge, or even, just supporting the course and giving it to some Black family that you may know that may be interested. So
yeah, so that'd be great. It doesn't matter what color you are if you're interested, right? That'd be something.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But it can also be, well, I'm not into real estate, don't plan on like starting a business that way or whatever. Well, like he just said, give an opportunity to another Black family, Black male. So I'll buy it for them, get them. Yeah. If you happen to be a Black male in particular, and you're like, dude, I need help figuring out how to start I'm in the same boat. I'm fixing to have to figure out how to make a future for myself. Definitely check out Jabari and get help there. So we'll put all of those links in the show notes. Thank you for listening in to the Team Oreo family conversation. Thank you so much, Darius and Jabari, for in a very difficult time hopping on and sharing and giving us time. If you're listening, we're Team Oreo is going to continue the conversation. If this is helpful, we'll figure out if there's ways we need to do that on a podcast. But please go check those guys out. Reach out, let them know that you appreciated this and that you are willing to take some steps to change. And hopefully, our collective advice is get in a relationship. So even if you reach out and just say, hey, I'm committed to do that. That's all you got to say to them. Hop on Instagram, DM them, say, hey, I'm white. I'm committed to do what you said. I think would be very encouraging. So thank you. Thank you guys. Team Oreo all the way.
I love it, man. That was awesome.
That's a wrap. Thanks again for listening to the Brand Ed podcast. A special thanks, of course, to Darius and Jabari for jumping on here with me. Make sure you check out the show notes. There's lots of ways that you can connect with Darius and Jabari there. Would love for you to do that. I also wanted to mention one other thing. I know Jabari and I forgot to mention. We talked about it afterwards. But one more important thing you can do in relationship, particularly as white and black, is share a meal together. Jabari and I used to literally have a bet every time we would meet on campus outside of the cafeteria. We would take a look and survey and see, are there any other black and white friends sitting together over a meal? And more often than not, he and I would be the only black and white person sitting down to share a meal together. So that's another great way, not just hang out, not just relationship, share a meal together, particularly in public, once that's available after the pandemic. There's something about sharing a meal together that is really, really helpful and important. Thanks again for tuning in on behalf of Team Oreo. We really, really appreciate it. Until next time, build a life-giving brand.